Hello again, everybody. This is Joe Larson, and you're watching the 5 Off 5 On Racing Show. Welcome to another night of race talk. And tonight we'll be talking about a lot of things. In addition to Where Are They Now with former NASCAR Wheel and Modified Tour champion Jamie Tomeno, and our Grand National Cup champion Lee Petty. In addition to that, we'll talk about the Snowball Derby, which was held down in Florida, the Valente Modified Series Banquet, as well as the indoor racing down in Trenton. And we'll talk about the Cup Banquet and some of the awards handed out. We got a lot to talk about tonight. But anyway, we're going to start off with the Where Are They Now segment. First up, we're going to talk about Jamie Tomeno. Jamie Tomeno was out of Tilton Falls, New Jersey, now resides in Midland, North Carolina. Jamie, born July 3rd, 1956, was the 1990 NASCAR Wheel and Modified Tour champion with only one victory that year. At that point, he had 1,618 starts. And his first one being at the Thompson Motorsports Park in 1985. Over the years, that number grew to a staggering, I believe it's 690 starts. I could not confirm that, believe it or not, but he has one of those guys who was with the tour from the beginning and just recently left the Modified Tour as a regular to move down south with his family. He also has 5 starts in the NASCAR Wheel and Southern Modified Tour, which is now merged with the Northern Tour. And he raced with them for 4 years, from 2005 to 2009. He had one Xfinity start back when it was the Nationwide Series in 1991 at the New Hampshire Motor Speedway. He also ran in the K&N Pro Series East with 3 starts over 2 different seasons. His weekly series, his best season was 1986, where he finished 3rd in the points at the Stafford Motor Speedway. Now, on May 14th at the New London Waterford Speed Bowl in 2016, Jamie had his 600th start, and at the time, Tomeno became only the 24th national or regional touring series driver to attain this milestone, competing in one series. The previous 23 drivers all did that in the NASCAR's top series, whether it was the Grand National, the Winston, the Sprint, and now the Monster Energy. Connecticut's Wade Cole is the closest active driver to Tomeno's monstrous number of starts and in that one series, and Wade has 340 starts. So Wade would have to, under the new schedule, race at least another 15 years in order to catch up to Jamie's milestone. And there was a rule made, I called it tongue-in-cheek, the Jamie Tomeno rule, because through the provisionals, and understand a lot of modified showed up back in the day, back up until maybe 5 years ago, where many drivers went home. In other words, they did not qualify. Here we are in Long Island at the Riverhead Raceway, and Jamie misses out on time. Now understand, it had nothing to do with his ability or his equipment. It had to do with 50 cars or 48 cars attempting to qualify for 28 spots. The difference between the pole and go home was 0.2 of a second. There are provisionals. There's 2 driver provisionals based on points, 2 owners provisionals based on points, and a past champions provisional. We all think Jamie's getting it that day. What happened that day is a local former tour champion, Wayne Anderson, going by what the rules said, hey, wait a minute, I'm a past champion. I get that spot. And he got the spot over Jamie because he was a little bit quicker in time trials. That caused a whole big thing. Jamie and his team were not happy. They met in the hauler with us in NASCAR in regards to that. The rule was clear. Jamie was out. Wayne Anderson was in. Mind you, Jamie had supported the tour since 1985 and never missed an event. Wayne Anderson was only running that event that day because it was his home track. Why not try to make some extra bucks in the tour race that day? Well, NASCAR realized how ridiculous that rule was and changed it the following year to you had to be a participant in that season to utilize the past champions provisional. It's unfortunate that that happened. His streak of starts would have been incredibly longer than it ended up being. But I got to tell you something about Jamie. And I know Jamie, and I've seen him as happy as a bee. I've seen him upset. Jamie's operation is pretty much a family deal. He shows up every week in a tag-along enclosed trailer with every part that he could squeeze into it, with his wife Cheryl, his daughter Brittany, and his boys Trey and Jamie, until they headed south to work with some cup teams. Many times I'd see them in the morning at tracks that we had to get hotels and stay, while that they would bunker down in their hauler, and that's where they slept, because they needed that extra money that they weren't going to spend on hotels to go racing that day. And I'll tell you what, as a series director or race director that I was back in the early part of 2000, Jamie was one of those guys I could go talk to. Talk about the track, talk about something that might have happened the week before, and he was one of those guys you could talk to. Never put you down, never made you feel like you were bothering him. And even this past season at the World Series at the Thompson Motorsports Park, I went over to his hauler and we talked about something I'm working on. And when I asked for his help with it, he lit up, absolutely. So Jamie, enjoy your retirement. And I'd say it was a pleasure being an official and watching your race, and now being a fan and a reporter and watching your race as well. So good luck to you in your new endeavors. Our next person with the Where Are They Now, Lee Petty. Lee Petty, born, as they put it in the record books, near Randleman, North Carolina. Lee Petty was born in March 14th, 1914, and unfortunately passed on April 5th, 2000. He began racing at the Charlotte Speedway at the ripe young age of 35, right into the Grand National Series, which was NASCAR's new series. And he finished in the top 5 in points in NASCAR's first 11 seasons and won the title 3 times. He also won the inaugural Daytona 500. However, that win was very controversial, as the Daytona 500, that's where Johnny Beecham was unofficially declared the winner. Lee Petty protested the finish, and it took NASCAR 3 days to investigate the race and declared Petty the winner. And Big Bill France called him up and said, "You won." Now, what Big Bill France and NASCAR did is they sent out ads in the paper. If anybody has pictures of the finish, anybody that has, I think it was Movie Tone News was there. Who has we need to see this. Well, 3 days later, Big Bill calls Lee, and in 1999, Lee was being interviewed, and he said, "France knew that I won that race. He just wanted to bring controversy to the event to generate publicity, because that put people in the seats." Lee Petty, for those who don't know, is the father of Richard Petty and the grandfather of Kyle Petty. And along with his son Maurice Petty, they formed Petty Enterprises, one of NASCAR's most successful race teams. There's a picture on the screen right now. That's a shot of a crash at Daytona when Petty went over the wall and dropped 3 stories to the other side of the racetrack. It virtually ended his career. Also, Petty raced in NASCAR's convertible division in 57, 58, and 59. He had 2 wins there and 28 starts. In 1990, Lee Petty was inducted into the International Motorsports Hall of Fame. In 1996, the Motorsports Hall of Fame of America, also the North Carolina Sports Hall of Fame. In 1998, selected as one of NASCAR's top 50 greatest drivers, along with his son Richard. In 2011, he was inducted into the NASCAR Hall of Fame, housed in Charlotte, North Carolina. He had 427 Grand National events from 1949 to 1964. He had 332 top tens. His career, like I said, virtually ended in 1960 after that wreck that we saw the pictures, and that again is a color picture of what was left of that car when they brought it into the garage. He only raced in the last 4 years of his career, he raced in 9 events, and I'm not going to say he was a field filler because he finished 109th in the points in one of those years. He was, as I said, the Cup champion in 54, 58, and in 59, and again up until 60. His worst points finish was 6th. His average season points finish was 2.8. So basically he was in the top 3 every week and every year. The man to beat each and every week, Lee Petty. I had the opportunity to meet Lee Petty, and I'm going to say it was back in 1994. I was working in Greensboro, North Carolina, and my condo was in High Point. I was working for UPS at the time, and that's where I worked. And I had a few days off, so I went up to the Petty Museum up in Level Cross. And there I was walking up the driveway. I go into the place. I spend some time there. I explained to the lady out front that I was a NASCAR official. They actually let me go into the shop where it was off limits to the public. And coming out, Lee Petty was mowing the lawn. I kid you not. And I waved, and he waved back, and he stopped his little tractor, and he came over, and he goes, "You have a good time, young fella?" "Yeah, we did." And he goes, "You look a little hot. Would you like some sweet tea?" And we sat there and had a glass of iced tea and talked about what it was like in those days. And I just thought, I was just an old man, somebody's paying attention to him. The whole family's that way. I've spent time and had discussions with Richard Petty. Kyle Petty helped me out many a times over the years when I was down there, and even when I've gone to racetracks. You know, unfortunately, I never got to meet Adam Petty, who passed away in a test at the New Hampshire Motor Speedway. But the Petty family is what racing is all about. And it started with Lee Petty back in the day. On a sad note, I hate to have sad notes, but Bud Moore. Bud Moore was a decorated military veteran, a recipient of 5 Purple Hearts. He also had 2 Bronze Stars, as well as being a championship crew chief and car owner with 63 victories in the top series. Some of the notable drivers who drove for Bud Moore were Bobby Allison, winning 14 times in Bud Moore's famous number 15 that you see on the screen now. Ricky Rudd was a 5-time winner. Joe Weatherly was an 8-time winner. Dale Earnhardt Sr. drove for Bud Moore. Moore's cars won during parts of 4 decades. Moore, a member of the NASCAR Hall of Fame in Charlotte, North Carolina, was 92 years old. And as Kyle Petty put it in a press release, the superheroes that he grew up looking up to are starting to pass away. And Bud Moore, I never met Bud Moore. I saw him at racetracks. I did the wave thing. He waved back, because that's what you do. An intense man. And you knew he was going to win. And that's the car that Dale Earnhardt Sr. drove in the Bud Moore days. Prayers to Bud Moore and his family. Rest in peace, Bud. You're one of those guys that you built our sport. We'll take a break and we'll be right back.
Hey, what's... Oh, I was going to say what's up for some reason. Hey, we're Set It Up, and you're watching the Inravio TV network.
Village Music Shop of Mastic. 1-800-HEY-DUDE. Your full-service store with personalized attention, school band instrument rentals and sales, music instruction on all instruments for all styles and age groups, for guitars, drums, amplifiers, PA systems, and accessories. It's Village Music Shop, 1495 Montauk Highway in Mastic. Call 1-800-HEY-DUDE or go to villagemusicshop.com.
This is Buddy from Less Than Jake, and you are listening to Inravio TV. You're probably watching it too.
Hey, welcome back. Anyway, this past weekend down in Pensacola, Florida, they held a race, a late model race called the Snowball Derby. And, there's a lot of these types of races all over the country. In the November, December time. And I don't normally talk about this, but this one brought attention to me because of the winner. And that winner was Monster Energy Drink NASCAR Cup Series driver Kyle Busch. Kyle Busch was the winner at the Snowball Derby, followed by Jeff Coquette. Bubba Pollard was third. Harrison Burton was fourth. Cassius Clark was fifth. Casey Roderick was sixth. Chandler Smith seventh. Chase Purdy eighth. Rafael Assard ninth. And Brandon McReynolds rounding out the top 10. For those who don't know, Brandon McReynolds will be running a part-time K&N Pro Series East car with the ownership of Long Island's John Visconti. I should say New York's John Visconti. It was one of the races that they just wanted to see how the kid did. And your qualifying for this event was huge. And there's Kyle Busch on the roof of his car doing that fist pump that I won deal. And when you look at races like this, sometimes you're like, okay, what's the big deal? Like I've done in the past. But here you have a guy, Brandon McReynolds, who's trying to make his way up the ranks, the son of legendary crew chief Larry McReynolds, who was the crew chief when Dale Earnhardt Sr. won the Daytona 500. And now in the broadcast book, broadcasting the races, bringing a lot of insight onto the TV screen. But when you look at a race like this, to finish 10th in a race that's hard to qualify for, and that's won by an experienced driver such as Kyle Busch, you have to say to yourself, wow. And I know a lot of people, don't want to hear about a Long Island guy or a New York guy, making good for some reason. I don't know sometimes if it's a jealousy thing or they felt like they were left out. But, racing's a business, folks. And, like in any business, whether you're have an ice cream truck or a hot dog truck or a Fortune 500 company or a little store on the main road or a little store on a back road. It's a business, and every business is, you want to be profitable, you want to make money. And some people just think, hey, that guy has a lot of money. He should just stay here at our local place and keep feeding it. And when I say feeding it, it's just taking the money and just writing another check, a wad of cash, giving out the cash. And when somebody moves on from that local thing, you don't always see them go with accolades. You don't always see them go with a pat on the back and a good luck. Not even a, if you need any help, call me. And that's why I talked about this race today, because Brandon McReynolds needed an opportunity. He's a good driver, but just like in any business, sometimes you just need the opportunity. So a top 10 finisher, Brandon McReynolds, and I think that's a good deal. And speaking of a good deal, the indoor racing series was at the Trenton, what do they call that place? They call it the Cure Insurance Arena in Trenton, New Jersey. What happened to the old days when you just called it the Trenton Arena? I guess everybody's buying rights because it's business. But Staten Island, New York's Whitney Kidd III won the first annual East Coast Indoor Dirt National event this past weekend. Now, I've been going to indoor races for, I'm going to say, over 40 years. And there was a whole period of time I didn't go to any due to work and all of that kind of good stuff. But I'm back in the groove with that. And these indoor races are something to watch. It's a tight little racetrack. They run the TQs, as they call them, the three-corner midgets. They run champ carts. And they also, other than Trenton, run what they call the slingshots. And it's usually a couple of day event. Now, the next one is in Allentown, PA. In the beginning of January, the end of January, it'll be in Atlantic City. That's the one that I never try to miss. And the names, it's a who's who in these races. And the late Ted Christopher, he would be in these things, and I'd watch him come from the back all the time and be put to last, and he'd race his way back up and put to last. And if he finished that race, he was battling for the win. But indoor racing, if you've never seen it, you might want to check it out, and because it's different, it's loud, it's tight, bump and grind racing. It's racing, in my opinion, the way it ought to be, rough and tumble. I'm not saying you want to go wreck people on purpose, but you know what? If you could finish a race in these indoor races and not have any marks on your race car, you did real good. Maybe. Because if there's not a mark on your race car, you weren't racing hard enough. But anyway, Whitney Kidd III was the winner there, and he did a nice job with that win for the weekend. In the Valente Modified Series, they had their annual awards banquet. It was, I believe, their 14th Valente Modified Racing Series banquet, where they crowned Anthony Nocella of Woodburn, Mass. as the champion. Nocella had 5 wins en route to his championship. Nocella plans to return to the Valente Series to defend his title in 2018. That's Anthony up there. As you can see, Anthony's in a NASCAR Whelen Modified Tour suit. That's a publicity picture that NASCAR uses. And I used that picture on purpose. Not to put down the Valente Modified Racing Series, because it's a good series and it does a lot of good stuff, but because I'm going to say 80% of the drivers who were in the VMRS series are former tour drivers. And I had talked to a bunch of them at Thompson Motorsports Park during the World Series more than a couple of years, as to why are you still here? Why are you not with the tour where there's more money, there's more opportunities, and you know the drill. And they said cost. And I, knowing what it costs to race a tour mod, I said, when you say cost, what are we looking at? He goes, you're limited on how many tires you could buy right off the bat. You could get like 6 for the first race, and then it's 2 every week. And they're barcoded, and you see who's using what tires. It's not that the richest guy gets 20 tires or they get a perfectly balanced set. Here's your tires, make it work. They don't have pit stops, so they're not going down pit road. So what does that mean? They don't have 5, 6 guys on pit road in fire suits and helmets and gloves and shoes. All their shows are one-day events. You go in the morning, you practice, you qualify, you race, you go home. There's no hotels. Many of the teams just have regular enclosed trailers. They don't have the double stackers with their spare cars and spare motors and spare this and spare that. An extra crew chief sleeping up front in case the other guy's tired. You don't have that. And when you look at that, the licensing fee for the driver is $100. That's what it was in 2017. I don't know if that's going to change in 18. $100 for the driver, $10 for the crew guy. $10. What can you get today for $10? And on the touring series, the driver's license in NASCAR is over $400, and the crew is $340 or $360. That's a big nut. Plus, each of them has to have a fire suit to work pit road with the SFI and the helmet and the gloves and the shoes. So the cost is insane. Is the payoff less? Absolutely. Absolutely. The payoff's a little less, but the cost is way down as well. So when you do the math, look, let's face it, those of us that don't have sponsors and are trying to do this with help from here and here and here, you're not going to make any money racing. So what I'm going to say is the Valente Modified says you're going to lose less. You're going to make less, but you're going to lose a heck of a lot less. And it's a whole different ball game. If you bump a guy out, you're done. You're done. The rules in regards to where they race is totally different. And I'm not saying that's racing, but it's working for them. This is year 14. I can remember in 2003 when they came out, everybody said, they're not going to make it. Maybe a season, maybe two. This is 14 years. And in some places, they're getting more cars than Big Brother's NASCAR Wheel and Modified Tour Series. And I know that, Phil Kerrs from Whelen Engineering, one of the things that he's always battling with NASCAR is what can we do to lower the costs? Do we really need to be at a racetrack for 3 days, 2 days, or in some cases 4? Do we really need to do that? Do our teams really need to go to Charlotte for a non-points race? What about this billion-dollar TV deal that NASCAR received? Why isn't it not trickling down to the modifieds? Why are the modified tour races on a tape delay shown 2 weeks later at midnight? Those are the things that you look for. If you're going to race in one of the top touring series, which is the modifieds, why not treat them like they one of the top touring series? A lot of people said the modifieds were the first series that NASCAR had in 1948. And yeah, it was. That's what it was called. Because you went to the car lot or the car dealership, you took a car off the showroom floor or off the back lot, and you modified it. That became Grand National cars over the years, and modifieds became like a second division. But when you look at that, you say, what's wrong with this picture? I think somebody in NASCAR needs to take a look at that. Why are these other modified series doing so well with their car counts, with their races, where they're going, the tracks they're going, how they're staying kind of local to help their teams? That's what the Modified Tour was 20 years ago, and that's what it needs to be again today. But congratulations to Anthony Nocella on his championship in the Valente Modified Racing Series. And it'll be good to see, it's always good to see somebody defend their title. It's not moving on to something else, but Anthony was a NASCAR Wheel and Modified Tour driver who took the opportunity to move into a series that costs a lot less money, and he's making it happen as championship. Anyway, we're going to take a break, and we come back. We'll be talking about the Cup Banquet and some of the things that went on there, some of the awards that were handed out, and things of that nature when we come back.
Hi, I'm Remington. I'm Emerson.
I'm Sebastian.
We're Palais Royale, and you're watching Inravio TV.
The world of advertising has changed. Radio, TV, and newspaper revenues have declined drastically. Why? Because businesses have realized that advertising return on investment isn't what it used to be. So what can we do about it? Well, that's easy. Advertise online. Own a local restaurant, real estate agency, or even a national retail chain? Whatever your business, Inravio can get your message out there. And we can do it at a fraction of the cost. Call today and see the difference for yourself. This isn't TV. This isn't radio. This is Inravio.com.
Hey, this is Chris Jake, and if Inravio.com spots you at an event wearing this bracelet, they will give you $100.
Village Music Shop of Mastic. 1-800-HEY-DUDE. Your full-service store with personalized attention, school band instrument rentals and sales, music instruction on all instruments for all styles and age groups, for guitars, drums, amplifiers, PA systems, and accessories. It's Village Music Shop, 1495 Montauk Highway in Mastic. Call 1-800-HEY-DUDE or go to villagemusicshop.com.
Hi, this is Mike Jarecki from My Race News, and you're watching the Inravio TV network.
Welcome back. Hey, this past week, the Monster Energy NASCAR Cup Series awards banquet was held out in Las Vegas, Nevada. I can remember when they held that at the Waldorf Astoria in New York, and the cars would drive through the city during Champions Week, but now they do it in Las Vegas. And the Touring Series banquets are held in Charlotte at the Hall of Fame in downtown Charlotte. But anyway, I didn't watch it live this year. I actually DVR'd it and watched it a couple of days later or so. But what I noticed and I was happy about was that everything was timed. It was a 2-hour show. People got up, they had so many minutes to speak, they got off. They consolidated a lot of the stuff. Some of the lesser awards, and not that those people don't deserve those awards, but they do. You know, do you really need to know like who got the handkerchief award, you know, and who got this award, and who got that's you don't even know the people, you know, and they'd run it on the screen, but they would show that, and it would. I can remember recording it a few years back and missing the top 5 because it ran over. Like by a lot. But anyway, Martin Truex Jr. Celebrated the 2017 championship with his Furniture Row race team. Martin Truex Jr., a New Jersey guy from the north, went down south, went racing, and with his team owner, Mr. Visser, who when he bought the team, his friends and family said, "You're crazy." They laughed at him. Now, unfortunately, he couldn't attend, still suffering from the heart attack that he had in the heart surgery. Who's laughing now? The guy who lived his dream. Bought a team and made them champions. Now, all 16 drivers who made the playoffs took turns on stage, and the final 4 had the opportunity to make speeches. Not a big fan of the playoff, but you know, NASCAR did it right, the banquet, bringing up, hey, these are the 16 guys that made the playoffs. These are the 4 that made the final show, and the final 4 to talk. And the thing that I miss about the banquet is, like years back, they would say, and I think I talked about this a couple weeks ago, they said, you know, and here is, you know, so-and-so earning, you know, $2,386,927.19. And they don't do that anymore. And I know kind of why, because the driver really doesn't get that. Most of these drivers are under contract for their teams. That's what the team was paid. And nobody says that it costs $6 million to run it or $15 million to run a top team. But Martin Truex Jr. with that trophy, and I believe it weighs like 70 pounds. It took 2 people to lift it up. But, you know, here's a guy who was, as Dale Earnhardt Jr. said, his life partner, suffering the ill effects of cancer, and with the never give up attitude. And you know, when you watched him give his speech, he let that be known that they do it together. This championship was together, and they're going to fight this battle together. And I'll tell you what, that gave me those goosebumpy things that you get. You know, I tease people, like, you know, you get that teary-eyed. It's not teary-eyed, it's the pollen levels are high. And I guess the pollen levels were high in my house when we watched that. But anyway, a lot of other awards were given out, some of the big ones. The Betty Jane France Humanitarian Award. Betty Jane France, the wife of Big Bill France, the founder of NASCAR. That went to Julian Maher for his work developing Culture City organization to help children with autism learn how to function in today's society. Julian Maher, he's not going out looking for this. He's not looking for accolades. He's helping these children, and that's all he wants to do. He was in a position to do it. He did it. Somebody nominated him to NASCAR for the Betty Jane France Humanitarian Award, and that's how you're chosen. People from all over send in nominations, and then the committee, who I don't know who it is, and it doesn't matter, decides which one was the best. With Dale Earnhardt Jr., he won an award he knew he was going to get, and one surprised him. Dale won the Most Popular Driver Award for the umpteenth time. So you know he's not going to win it next year because he has retired. But he was also presented the Bill France Award for Excellence, presented by Bill's son, Brian France. That surprised Dale Jr. He could not believe that he received that award because it was not something he was expecting. He was just not expecting that award. And, you know, race car drivers, they're rough and tumble, some of them, and they're tough guys. Dale's old school. He got a little emotional accepting that award. So congratulations to Dale. And I'll tell you what, I wish him well. It's hard to get out of business, a sport, a job, after doing it for as long as Dale Jr. did this, and understanding what he went through. Think about that, folks. Think about, here you are, you're racing with your dad, and your dad gets killed in a race that you raced at with him, and 4 or 5 months later, you go back to that track. I don't think I could do it. I don't think I could do it. I think I would have hung it up that day. Maybe not, I don't know. I wasn't in that position, thank God. But to go back to that track in July and win that race, that's incredible. And you know, what he went through when his dad died, and the estate and all of this, and you know, he was like fired from the family business, so to speak. And he started JR Motorsports, and many drivers are going to come up through the ranks through the JR Motorsports with the Camping World Truck Series truck, the Xfinity car. And don't be surprised to see Dale Jr. with a Monster Energy NASCAR Cup Series team down the road. So good luck to Dale Jr. in his retirement. He'll go into the broadcast booth, and he was also named the Grand Marshal for the 2018 Daytona 500, which is big, But even though with all of that, I'm happy for Dale. I'm happy that NASCAR is doing as well as they're doing. But Matt Kenseth was just a blip during the awards banquet. Matt Kenseth started the same year as Dale Jr. and ended the same year. Matt Kenseth also had championships and more wins, and for the 45 seconds that Kenseth was honored for his achievements, he basically walked away with a handshake. And that kind of bothers me, because Matt Kenseth was a below, under the radar type of guy. Let's say below the radar. Let's just go out and do it on the racetrack. He wasn't out there making commercials. He wasn't out there promoting himself. Maybe he should have, I don't know. but he was kind of overlooked, and that disappointed me. But it happens. It happens. Anyway, some of the stuff, we have other awards handed out. Elliott Sadler was voted in the Xfinity Series as the most popular driver in that series. Elliott, as you know, had a little discussion post-race with Ryan Preece at the Miami Homestead racetrack at the Champions race, saying that Ryan cost him the championship. And for those who don't know, that this most popular driver thing is exactly that. It's a popularity award where your fans, your friends, your family, the store where you buy your coffee in the morning, they go online and vote for you. There's no limits to how many times you could vote. And I'm not saying that should take away, because if you could make that happen, just like Melissa Fifield in the NASCAR Whelen Modified Touring Series is the most popular driver there by the vote of the people, Elliott Sadler was the most popular driver in the Xfinity Series. And Elliott is one of those guys that I've met, I've played golf with, had a couple of adult beverages with him here on Long Island when he played in the Tom Baldwin Sr. Memorial Golf Outing a few years back. A nice guy, and I'm going to say this again, and many people are going to disagree. Elliott Sadler is the best Cup driver, not in Cup. We'll just leave it at that. Eric Jones. He also was got a nice award in the Cup Series as the Rookie of the Year in 2017. Eric Jones is just a young kid. You know, I was going through some of the pictures, and people were like, wow, he's just a baby. And I can remember when I first started following racing, and yeah, we didn't have the TV coverage and the newspaper coverage and the internet back in the early to mid 60s. But I can remember looking at these, like Lee Petty, he started his career when he was 35. Today in racing, at 35, you're kind of like, you know, on the downslide, you're on your way out. But, you know, there's these kids today just coming into the sport because they started racing go-karts at 5 years old, and champ karts and bandoleros and legends, and they've moved up the ranks, and now NASCAR has that diversity program, and they have these young guys and girls going and learning how to, not only how to drive race cars, but how to sell themselves, how to appear. And that brings me to something that we're going to talk about more in the closing minutes, but, you know, how to appear. One of the things that, and as a company that's, you know, that I'm involved with that sponsors local race teams, here's the thing that makes me nuts, is you're walking around the pit area in a dirty T-shirt and your fire suit top off, tied around your waist. Where are all your sponsor logos? They're on your fire suit. So if you're gonna wear that dirty T-shirt under your fire shirt, on your suit, wear a T-shirt that has your sponsor logos on it. Do something like that. Think about this, when you watch a race and they go to interview somebody, you just got out of, or she got out of there with a hot race car, the sweat's pouring off, and what do? Zip that suit up. It's not open, it's not tight at the waist, because they were trained to do that. You know, and those are some of the things that sponsors look at, even at the lowest level. How are you going to represent their company, their product, their goods and services? If you're not proud enough to display their logo and image while you're being interviewed for TV, then why should they sponsor you? Because they have a lot of money? Because that's the attitude a lot of drivers have, and especially on a local level. Hey, whoa. I saw a proposal once that a team gave to me to bring to a company, and it said, if you sponsor us, we could buy more tires and buy fuel, and with more tires, we'll do better, and with the leftover money, we could buy beer for the crew. That was the opening paragraph. I said, you can't say that. Well, you want me to lie? That's what the guy said to me. And those are the things. And, most popular driver. Yeah, a lot of people like the way a person looks, the way they talk, the way they act. Maybe not at Homestead when you're running for a championship, but it's the people that are supporting you. Hey, you know what? If they're willing to go watch you race every week, and they're willing to buy your shirts and your hats and your sweatshirts and your coats and anything else that has your sponsor logo and your name on it, and they want to vote for you most popular driver, absolutely. God bless them. Go for it. Make it happen. But there are also those drivers that are making it happen too. They're doing the right thing. And I always thought that local racetracks should have something similar to that. But not have it voted on by the fans. Each driver and crew chief gets one vote. You can vote for anybody you want except yourself. I'd be interested to see how that would come out. And I'll tell you what, nothing against the guys and gals who've won this award over the years, even at the highest level, but I'm thinking the results might be different. So you can't vote for yourself. So now you really got to sit there and say, wow, who's a good guy to race with? Something that they need to think about. Anyway, we're going to take a break. When we come back, we're going to talk about some of the ongoings in NASCAR. We're going to wrap this up when we come back.
Hey guys, this is Jibs from Ocean's 8 Alaska, and you're watching Inravio TV Network.
Hey, I'm Raul Panther.
And I'm Commander B. Hawkins.
And I'm Russ Weller. We're some of the proto men. If we see you without this bracelet, you get punched in the But if you have this bracelet from Inravio.com, you can win $100.
Put one of these on, or else.
What's up, guys? This is Assuming We Survive, and you're watching Inravio TV Network.
Hey, welcome back. Hey, the Xfinity news. Roush Fenway Racing will field a NASCAR Xfinity Series driver development team next season with Ty Majeski, Austin Cindric, and Chase Briscoe, splitting time in the team's number 60 car. So that's pretty good. Team Penske also announced an enhanced 2018 partnership with Rev Group, a specialty vehicle manufacturer serving the commercial, fire, and emergency and recreational market. Say that 3 times fast. Rev will be the primary sponsor for the number 12 car and driver Ryan Blaney. Also, former series champion Tony Stewart proposed to longtime girlfriend Penelope Jimenez on Thanksgiving Day. No wedding date has been planned, but the most eligible bachelor in racing, it used to be Dale Jr., now Tony Stewart, is now taken. So good luck to Tony in his endeavors, and I'm sure the wedding date will be announced, and we'll have it here. Anyway, banquets. Banquets are coming up, as we had the Top Series banquet this past weekend. And I'm going to do my little banquet talk that I do every year. This is show number 324. So I probably had this talk about 6 times. And when you look at the banquets, and I'll tell you what, I have a racing newspaper here in front of me, and your picture's going to be in this paper. It's going to be in the racing paper. Now, whether your local track has the banquet in a big fancy place in a nice town and everybody gets dressed to go and you're the champion of your division, or your racetrack has that at a local eatery in the back room, you're still the champion of your division. Now, if everybody shows up at, my bar and grill for the Banquet, because that's where your racetrack has it, and they want to wear T-shirts and a pair of jeans, that's their business. They're not in the pictures. You are. Tie, button-down shirt. You don't have to have a jacket. You don't have to have a tuxedo. But dress nice, because not only are you representing yourself, you're representing all the people who helped you, and primarily your sponsors. And you know what I've done? And I've sponsored through my business cars at my local racetrack, on the touring series, in the indoor series, and even at tracks in New Jersey and Connecticut. And when somebody comes to me with their proposal, and I'm going to be honest, I don't normally read their proposals because it has what I call stupid stuff, like my crew could have beer. I ask them to bring pictures of them off the racetrack. I ask them, you win any awards at your racetrack and race? Well, yeah, I was a track champ and whatever. Have pictures of that? And if I don't like the way they're dressed, I don't help them. If I don't like the way that their Facebook page looks or any of their other social media, I don't help them. And why? Because my company can't be associated with somebody who's putting on their social media how they get drunk every night, or how they did this every night, or how they did that. Remember, racing's a business. And if you're gonna get into this business and you want a sponsor, don't seek out a sponsor because you need money. Seek out a sponsor because you could do the right thing for that company, and it's a marriage, so to speak. They're giving you money to operate your race team. In turn, you need to give that sponsor a return. You don't want to embarrass that sponsor. Case in point, we'll go back 15, 16, 17 years on my local racetrack. I'm the head official. Let's go back 17 years. And one of the largest sponsors in one of the divisions, not the top division, not a modified, but in one of the popular divisions, that driver has an altercation on the racetrack with another driver. Words start popping out of each of their mouths. And the driver with the big sponsor is on the roof of his car, giving the other driver and some of the fans who were booing a half a peace sign, or the number one that you have to give because your pointer finger is broken. And I had a decision to make as the head official. That decision was, I have to penalize this driver, and I have to penalize that driver the same way I've done every other driver that did the same thing. But because of the sponsorship, I call the sponsor. And that sponsor said, he should be thrown out for the year. I said, well, I didn't throw the other people out for the year, but I just wanted to run it by you. And so he got the same penalty as everybody else. He made a little cash donation to the point fund and sat home for 2 weeks. But he lost that sponsor, at least for that season. So think about that when you go to your banquet, whether you're the feature division champion or the entry-level division champion, dress accordingly. You never know who's looking. You never know who's watching. And you never know who's thinking of representing you, but you're going to show up with your dirty old T-shirt and your worn-out jeans to accept your champion's plaque. That's not good. It's just a little advice, and I've said it, this is the 6th year that I'm saying this, and if I could help one person gets that sponsor because they listened in this banquet attire talk, then I did my job. Well, anyway, that's it for tonight. I want to thank everybody for taking time out of your busy schedules, whether you're in live, whether you're in the chat room, whether you're going to catch the show on demand during the week. I thank you for taking that time to do that. And wherever your endeavors are going to bring you this week, I ask you to please be safe, please be careful. Give somebody a hug. Tell them you love them. God bless you all, and we will see you next week. Good night, everybody.
Inravio.com. Inravio.com.